Hey everyone, my name is Jermaine and welcome back to the Reading Room for Kids. I'm so glad to have you here. Let's dive into another wonderful story. And today's book is called The Berenstain Bears Thanksgiving. It's round the next bend, down a sunny dirt road. Just ask the next squirrel, caterpillar, or toad for the treehouse home of the bear family where Ma, Pop, and the cubs are cozy and warm in their split level tree. Just at the moment, inside their quiet home, they're reading the harvest honeycomb. Honeycomb dribble, honeycomb drip. What lies ahead? A handsome stranger. Money? A trip? Grizzle growl, grizzle grum, warn us of any danger to come. Then Mama blew hard. Loose flower flew. Who caught the flower? Papa, that's who. But Mama and Papa both had turned white. Pa from the flower, Mama from fright. The sign in the pan stuck to the honey. There was no handsome stranger, no trip, no money. But the bone-chilling warning of danger ahead, a frightening footprint of a great giant's tread. Big Paw, breathed Mama. Good grief and Alice, Thanksgiving legend is coming to pass. Legend, asked Sister, what legend is that? It says when the bears of bear country grow greedy and fat and fail to share nature's great bounty, that monsters of monsters, Big Paw will come and gobble up Bear Country county by county. Nonsense, mocked Papa, nonsense and stuff, nonsensical piff. Pure Bear Country guff. But Papa Bear couldn't have been more wrong. The Thanksgiving legend was coming on strong, not more than 10 or 12 miles away. At the very moment of that very day, in a dark, murky forest, the ground was shaking. From crane fly to croc, swamp creatures were quaking. Something was coming. The creatures were frantic. Something enormous, something gigantic. It was Big Paw, of course. He was bigger by far than Paul Bunyan's horse, with shoulders like boulders, ditto his knees, with paws as big as dumpsters and arms as thick as trees. Out of the forest he came and he went, each footfall leaving a monster-sized dent. But Papa just scuffed and puffed out his chest. Forget about monsters and all of the rest, because, my dears, I beg to suggest, when it comes to holidays, your Papa knows best. I'm a bear for holidays, I like 'em all, whether in winter, spring, summer, or fall. And your Papa has perfect holiday habits. On Easter, I always make way for rabbits and say a small poem for spring and rebirth. On Earth Day, of course, I cherish the earth. On Christmas Day, I think of others, fathers, mothers, sisters, and brothers. On Arbor Day, I talk to the trees. But Thanksgiving is the best holiday, if you please. The one that for me is really the winner. Why? Thanksgiving dinner. Yes, it was almost time for the Bears' Thanksgiving, the day they gave thanks for their standard of living. And what a standard it was. From hollow to hill, from glenotch to glade, the bears of Bear Country had it made. Except for the legend that said, if the bears of Bear Country were selfish and greedy, and insufficiently kind to the needy, giving them no more than a tail or a wing, then Big Paw will come and do his thing. We'll have pickles and olives, marshmallow yams, 2 kinds of pie, jellies and jams, 7-grain bread, turkey of course, also radishes, both red and horse, corn on the cob dripping with butter, so yummily yummy and utterly utter. So as you can see, in Papa's bear case, all Thanksgiving meant was feeding his face. And I almost forgot, no ifs, ands, or buts, my favorite treat, we know Papa mixed nuts. So they went to a place that only they knew, the mixed nut forest where the mixed nuts grew. As the cubs picked almonds and walnuts, pistachios too, which Papa Bear claimed as his Thanksgiving due, the entire forest started to lurch. The cubs fell like stones from their top lofty perch, but they landed not with a bone-jarring bump, they landed instead in a comfortable womp. For you see, the cubs had been caught in midair in the dumpster-sized paw of the monster-sized bear. It was Big Paw, of course. The monster had come. Talk about scared. The normally talkative cubs were struck dumb. Suffice it to say, something pursuing happened that day. With a bit of a smile and a gnarly a sound, he gently placed them down on the ground. What a shock, what a surprise, for despite his manner and imposing size, Big Paw was nice, gentle, and shy, a friendly, helpful sort of guy. These cubs knew what they had to do, tell the only part of the legend that was true. Though he was powerful, fearsome, and tall, the monster called Big Paw was no monster at all. It was important news, so off they hurried, leaving Big Paw looking a little worried. Little cubs, you forgot your mixed nuts. This certainly was true, no ifs, ands, or buts. When the cubs told old Papa that Big Paw tell, his eyes opened wide, his face grew pale. Paw didn't hear the positive part. All he heard was Big Paw. The name struck terror in Papa Bear's heart. Just hold on, said Mama. Whether or not the legend is true, we must welcome the stranger. It's the right thing to do. But ignoring the news that Big Paw was nice and paying no heed to Mama's advice, Papa Bear called up the Bear National Guard. They would deal with the stranger, they would deal with him hard. Meanwhile, Big Paw had climbed to the high mountain ledge. He stretched and yawned, and he looked over the edge. As Big Paw's yarn rolled through the valley, through the mountain pass known as Echo Valley, they grew from a rumble to an enormous roar and confirmed the bear's fears that the Thanksgiving monster of legend and lore. Alice, Mama protested, fell on deaf ears. The bears of Bear Country gave into their fears. Mama's advice notwithstanding, they put the cart of fear before the horse of understanding. To arms, cried Paw. There's no time to fuss. We've got to get him before he gets us. Swords were unsheathed. Bugles were blown. There was no longer bears with minds of their own. There were no longer Jack and Jill, Betty and Bob. The bears had become a dangerous mob. With the false courage of numbers, to the mountain they went, with an arsenal of weapons and deadly intent. While up on the mountain, the cause of the flap was settling down for a bit of a nap, when he heard a strange sound. It was still far away, and not very loud. Of course, what it was the roar of a crowd. Now Big Paw was certainly no mental wizard, but he was getting a feeling deep down in his gizzard that trouble was coming, so he stretched his head, and he started his fuzzy old noodle a-humming, and using his powerful arms and shoulders to build a tower of boulders. If those bears were to charge up out of the valley, they'd be just like pins in a bowling alley. But those bears kept on coming, faster and faster. There was simply no way to avoid disaster. But then, at the very last instant, before the rocks fell, there came through the den a cub's tiny pitched yell. Wait! It was Sister. Wait, Sister cried. The rock tower teetered and started to slide. Brother and sister, small and defiant, had positioned themselves in defense of the giant. But brother and sister were in terrible danger, and there was no one to help them except for the giant. But the bears looked on in amazement and shock. Big Paw had held back the tower of rock. With the giant strength of his mighty right arm, he protected small brother and sister from harm. Big Paw's our friend. He's very nice. He saved us once, now he's rescued us twice. Weapons and hats filled the air, plus thankful shouts from every bear. There was joy in the valley on that fateful day. The bears welcomed the stranger. Yes, they had debt to repay. But it was more than that. That Thanksgiving dinner, the very next day, host Papa Bear had this to say. Friends, we are thankful that we've learned to share our bounty with our fellow bear. Excuse me, please, if you don't mind. Here is something you left behind. Look, Papa, your favorite treat, mixed nuts. Yes, friends, it was quite a Thanksgiving. No ifs, ands, or buts. And that is the end of this story. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the next one.